Okay. Right. Good evening, everybody. You're very welcome to our webinar tonight. Tonight's webinar is on tactical pad and using it. Joe Coulter is the football coach with Daily Sports Science, and Joe is going to go through. He's tonight's presenter, and he's going to go through tactical pad for training and match day situations. It'll be about 45 minutes long, and Joe will answer any questions then, or myself, for the last 15 minutes or so. In the chat, Joe's put up a survey, just looking at people wanting to know what people's competencies around tactical pad. If you just fill it out, it's very short, just so Joe will get an idea of maybe the people's ability on tactical pad. And then just a reminder, we've got a very good webinar coming up in a couple of weeks. I'll remind you again at the end with Niall Corcoran, so keep an eye out for that. So without further ado, I'll hand you over to Joe. It's all yours.
Cheers, Barry. Thanks for that. And thanks to everyone for filling out that form at the beginning, because it gives me an understanding of where people are in terms of their ability and how much they've used of the tactical pad. But I have got the feedback, and it's about roughly 2/3 of people don't have a clue, which is good for me, because then I know how to pitch this. And obviously, I will show you all of the different tools that you can use. And I've actually got, and I will share my screen with you. I have got a checklist, which I will put up now in a second. I'll put that up in the chat stream, so you can go through exactly what we're going to go through tonight. Okay, so I'll put that in the chat stream right now. I'm just copying the actual link. Okay, so that form that I put up now basically goes through everything we're going to go through tonight. Okay, and we're going to go through loads of things. We're going to go through how to select a pitch template. We're going to go through how to use the team settings function. So I think it's very important for you to get an understanding of how you name your teams, the different colors, the styles, the appearance. We're also going to go through the menu button, which is very important. So when you're creating new projects, which will become more apparent to you as we go on, there are also help tutorials so that you can help yourself. Also, obviously, how to share all of this with your team, and how to communicate it with your team as well. There's also a 3D function, which I'll go through later. Using the tactical pad on match day is also very important in terms of lining your team out, and also maybe storing some, using stored teams that you've saved previously. We'll also go through some simple practices, and then maybe we'll also, at the end, just before the questions, we go through, the more sort of complex practices, such as games and so on. It's good to have Barry here as well, because he's pretty much an expert in this as well. Okay, so what I'll do is I will share my screen with you. And Barry, can you see that screen?
Yeah, Joe, I can see it.
Brilliant. Okay,
and I can see the cursor as well. So.
Okay, brilliant. So yeah, I've made that cursor very big. Okay, just for the purposes of this webinar. So it means that you can see exactly where I'm clicking on. Now, I will just say that I'm actually using my MacBook for this. Now, it's called Tactical Pad, and I do have an iPad where I use it on the iPad as well. Okay, but for tonight, I'm using it on the MacBook because I can show you the arrow. With the tactical pad, I'm unable to show you the arrow, so that's why I'm using the MacBook. Now, if you want to purchase this for your iPad and for your MacBook, you're going to have to pay for 2 accounts. Okay, and that's just the way tactical pad have it. But they do have a deal whereby you can have one for your iPad and also one for your laptop. So that could come in useful as well. Okay, so what you'll see, the very first thing is when you log into your tactical pad, the very first thing you will see is a soccer pitch. Now, obviously, we're mostly GAA here, so we that's the default template. So what we really want to do is we want to select the right field. Okay, so at the very bottom here, you will see these settings, all these settings at the very, very bottom. Now, if you go to Fields, okay, and click on Fields, it will give you an array of options that you can choose. Now, there are soccer pitches. There are different variations of soccer pitches. There are also useful squared pitches with these little mini squares, triangles. You've got circles. You've also got a tennis court, and you've got other templates. Now, the one I will obviously choose is the Gaelic pitch. But up here in the left top hand corner, you can also put in your own pitch template. Okay. But what I tend to use is the Gaelic pitch here, obviously for match day and also for training as well. I would mostly use the Gaelic pitch. And the reason for that is because we train on a Gaelic pitch. We don't train on these circles here. We don't train on these types of pitches where there are no markings. The majority of us train on the Gaelic pitch. Okay. So if I press OK, the Gaelic pitch will come up. Now, there are different variations, and I'm sure you've seen on some of mine and some of Barry's videos, there are different variations of the pitch that you can have. So if I were to click at the very bottom here, it says camera. Okay, at the very bottom, this is the whole pitch, which I'm on at the minute. And then we've got half of the pitch here, which is the bottom half, and then the top half, which is here. So if I click on the bottom half of the pitch, this is good because it allows you to focus more on one particular half of the pitch. Okay, so I will bring it back, and then you've got this, which is the top half of the pitch. So, you know, it really depends on what perspective you're viewing it from, or what way you kind of design your training. So the pitches are very, very important. The fields are very important. So I will click back on camera. You can also have it in black and white as well. Now, over in the top right-hand corner where my cursor is, you will also see a kind of a 3D version of the pitch. So if I were to click on this kind of 3D version, where you're looking down on it, it changes my pitch a little bit, okay? So it's as if I'm in the stand and I'm looking at the pitch. However, there is one technical issue. You'll see that the crossbars of the goalposts, they're not actually up in the air, they're just down on the side. So the pitch that I would tend to use is just this flat pitch here, as if you're looking directly down onto the pitch. Okay, so that gives you an indication of some of the different pitches that you can choose in your training. And also, it's very important as well, instead of actually lining out some pitches with cones and so forth, what you can do is you can choose these squares here, which are very, you know, easy for you to use and measure off. For example, if you're doing maybe possession drills, well, all you have to do is put the players in these boxes, and you don't have to line out any cones or anything, which I will show you later. Now, if I go back to the pitch, the Gaelic pitch was over on the far side. Now, this Gaelic pitch comes with the standard version of tactical pad, so don't worry, it's always going to be there. Okay. Now, the next thing that I'm going to look at are using the team settings function. Okay, so on your screen as well, what you will see is you will see two icons at the very top. Okay, so I've got this blue icon here. This is one team. And on the right-hand side, top corner, I've got another team. Okay, so there are two teams here, which I can choose from if I wanted to put my players on the pitch. Also, we've got menu here. Now, I'm on the menu at the minute, which is here at the bottom, and I'll show you about that in a bit more detail later. And I've also got the tools function here, which I will show you when we come to carry out animations, or if we're kind of doing drills or some game-based stuff, we will use the tools function. But the very next one I'm going to use is the team settings function. Okay, so if I click on this icon, the team icon, at the very bottom, all of the players will appear. Okay, and these players can be dragged onto your pitch. So what you do is you click it and you drag it onto the pitch. Okay, so that's the goalkeeper that's on the pitch there now at the minute, obviously. Okay, but there are things that you can do to the color of this. Now it's a little bit small at the minute. I can obviously make it a little bit bigger. I can change the number. I can also put a name on it, which I will show you in a second. So how do you do that? Well, the easiest way to manipulate this is if I go to team settings. So I click on team settings here, and this will bring up this landing page here. Okay, so this is the team settings. So obviously the blue and white here has a default name, Team of Sports, and the Jaguar FC has also a default name as well. Okay, so if I wanted to change that, let's say I wanted to maybe call that Dublin, just for an example, I would just type in Dublin. I can also change the colors. Now the colors are quite close to Dublin's colors there, but there are obviously all the different colors that you can use for this. So if I wanted to maybe go more navy for Dublin, and then I've got the white here, keep that at white, and then maybe the navy again here. Okay, so now I've got my colors, and you know what color it is because it comes up in this little area here where it says style. Now I can click on the style button, and it will drop down to the different types of styles that you want if you were to put these players on the pitch. Okay, so there are different variations. There are loads of variations. Again, that would be up to you as to, you know, as to suit your color, the color of your team or your teams that you're looking after. If I go over to the right, you will see the appearance. Now the appearance is the way that you want it to appear on the field. Okay, so in other words, do you want the number of the player? Now I find it very, very helpful to have the number of the player and also the name of the player. So if I'm lining my team out for match day, I will have the number and the player at the very bottom. Okay, and if I were to click on that, press OK, you will see now that the player number and the player name has come up at the bottom. Now I'm going to go back to team settings, okay, because I want to make this a little bit bigger. So if you wanted to make your player a little bit bigger, you click on players, items, size, and you know, you can, this is how big that you can make it. And if I were to click OK, this is the maximum size that you would make it. Now that's obviously too big. It's certainly too big. It may not be too big. It may not be big if you're lining your team out for match day, but if you were doing practices or training or drills, it's obviously far too big. So I go back to team settings and I will have it at an appropriate size. Let's just say about a third or maybe a quarter from the end here. And obviously it's now smaller. Okay, but you'll see it's got the player name at the bottom. Now, how do I change the player name? Let's say I wanted to call that player something. I would click on my team squad. Now, clicking on the team squad will bring up all of the players on the team or in the squad. Okay, so if you wanted to, and you can store all of these, if you wanted to put all of the names of your players on the tactical pad, you can do it here. So let's say just for the first one, I'm going to call the first one S. Cluxton. And he's already the goalkeeper. Okay, and their starter. Now I'm not going to put a bib on this player because they're the goalkeeper. I can go through this and I can manipulate the names of all the players, the shirt numbers, and also the positions. Now the positions, you're probably asking, what do they matter? Well, the goalkeeper position matters because they have a different color of jersey, obviously compared to the outfield players, which you would have in Gaelic football as well. Okay, now you can put positions to these, but just remember that the position defaults that they have here are more for soccer. Okay, so if I were to drop down, it doesn't give half backs or half forwards, but you know, it is quite close. You know, there are wings, which you might say are wing backs. You might call it left backs, cornerbacks, right backs, cornerbacks. Okay, but it's not overly important to use the position function. Okay, and now if I wanted to go back to the pitch, if I click OK, now if I look at my first player, now you can see the name of the player is now underneath the number 1. And I'll make that a little bit bigger so that you can see it, people on their iPhones, and you'll see it's S. Cluxton here with his name. And now you can do that for your whole team squad. Now it might take you a while, obviously, to enter the data, but you can get someone to do that for you. It doesn't necessarily have to be done by the manager. You can get one of your coaches or someone else to do it for you. Okay. You can also do the same for the other team. So if you know who the other team is before you play them, obviously you can line it out as well. Okay. But again, that will be up to you. Now at the very bottom here, it says use different appearance for goalkeeper. Well, I am going to use a different appearance for a goalkeeper because it's very important to make the goalkeeper distinct. Very, very important in Gaelic football. Okay, so that is the team function settings. Okay. And I'll remind you again, it's down here at the bottom right-hand corner. You'll see this little cog here. So this little cog, team settings, allows you to manipulate the player name, the size, the appearance, the names, the colors, and so on. Okay, so a very, very important function. Okay, moving on to the next part, or the next part is how to use the menu button. So we've used it, the team settings. Now we're going to look at the menu button. Okay, the menu button is in the bottom left-hand corner, and it'll appear here. It'll appear here in your tactical pad as well. So if I were to click on menu, now I can see that the dock at the very bottom has now changed. Okay, so I'm just going to go through these all individually because I think it's important that you know what these all mean. So creating a new project, if I were to click on it, it says all changes will be lost. Do you want to save them before creating a new project? Well, you can save it. It depends if you want, but for the purposes of this, I will click no. And when I click on new project, it brings me back to the soccer field. And obviously I'm going to go and change that to a Gaelic field. Okay, so if you want to start a new project, click on new project. The next one is open project. Okay, and if you have any projects that you have saved, you will be able to open up previous projects that you've been working on that you might have saved in the past. You've got the save function here. You've got the save as function, which allows you to change the name. You've got settings function. Now the settings function shows you when your expiration date is. Okay, so that might be useful. You've also got the help function. Now there are videos and tutorials, and there are contact us. Now I have contacted Tactical Pad on many occasions with queries and questions and so on. And they're very good. They're very good at getting back to you straight away. Okay, so their customer service is really good. They're very innovative, and they always try to answer your questions very, very quickly. They don't leave you waiting for a few days. They try to answer it really quickly. But there are some help self videos and tutorials here for you, that you can use to help yourself even before you do contact them. So that help is good for you. There's also a share function. Now I mentioned earlier on about being able to share videos with your team, so you're able to communicate. Well, you can do this, and on the iPad, you can save them on your iPad. Okay, remember I'm not on an iPad, I'm on a MacBook here. But when I save them on the MacBook, I save them to drop to Google Drive, which is this icon here. So if you've got a Google Drive account, you can save all of your animations here. And there's a Dropbox account, and you can save your animations in a Dropbox account. That's if you have a Dropbox account. Okay, so all you have to do is upload them to those accounts. So it's pretty good at syncing it with your other accounts, because let's face it, there is not really a lot of memory on an iPad to save all of the different animations. Now we will go on to animations in a few seconds, but let's just stick with this. So we've got the boards as well. Okay, so there are two types of boards that you can be working on. The first is animated boards, which are boards that move, and this is the drills that you see myself and Barry putting up on Twitter and all. We use these animated boards, but they're also static boards, which do not have any play function, okay? They've got no movement. They're just pretty much static. But we will be going through animated boards, and you can make several animated boards, okay? It's got a copy and paste function there as well for you to use. Field, which I've gone through. 3D, now I'll just click on 3D because, and I will show this later on. 3D is very, very, very useful because, it allows you to kind of see what's happening on the pitch from different angles. And you can also kind of see what's happening from different player vantage points. Now that's it's not newish, but it's something that I haven't overly explored, but I'm kind of moving on to because it does get a little bit buggy. Sometimes it shuts down on you if you use the 3D option too much, but I will show you it towards the end. Okay, so that's the menu button. Okay, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to move on to the next part, the webinar, which is about using the tactical pad on match day. And there are a few things that I'm going to go through. So I'm going to first of all show you how to line out your team. Okay, so for match day, if you wanted to line out your team, you would do it traditionally. You might do it on a piece of paper or on a computer or whatever. But I found this very, very useful. Tactical pad, certainly very useful communicating with players and letting them know exactly where they are on the field. And it's an excellent organizational tool as well. So I'll go back to it again. So if you click on the team, that will bring your team on the bottom, the docking. So all you do is you drag your player over, okay? So let's say I wanted to drag the right back here. Now, again, you can put the names in under team settings. So if I go to appearance and I wanted the name there as well, because obviously the players need to know who is in what position. If I put the full back in. Now, there is a quick way to do this. Okay. And the way to do it is if you click on the two arrows at the very top here of this team, all you have to do is click your arrow. After you've clicked those double arrows, click your arrow and then click your cursor, and the numbers come out in numerical order. So we've got 5, 6, 8, 7, 10. For some reason, they're not coming out in numerical order here, but when we go from 1 to 15, they're all here. We've got a 16 here. So if you've got a 16 here, what you might do with that is, in order to get rid, you wouldn't want to get rid of them. What you would do is you click on it. Oops, need to click that. You would put your subs at the side of the pitch, okay? Which is very useful because then players know who the subs are as well. So if I put that 14 in there and then put my 15 there, put my 14 there, maybe switch my 7 and my 8. So I've got my midfield, I've got my 9 here, I've got my half forward line there. Now you will notice that the number 12 here is in a goalkeeper's jersey. And that's because this is obviously for soccer. So they haven't really thought it through for Gaelic football. Now that doesn't matter, because if you wanted to change that, you would go to team settings, you would go to your team squad, you would have a look down and see where number 12 is. And you see the number 12 is a goalkeeper. So you want to kind of change that and not have them as a goalkeeper. Okay, and just have it as attacking midfielder. And then if I go back, they're now in the proper colors. Okay, so that is very useful for lining out your team. Now, when I do it, I line my team out like this, and I take a screenshot of it on my iPad, and then I send it to my players on the WhatsApp group. Now, just remember, for inclusivity, make sure that you have the subs around the side, okay? And the place where I put my subs around the side is, I try to put the subs in close to the position where they're going to be playing. So if I've got number 17 here, and I think that number 17 is going to come on in the half-back position, I'll put the 17 here. Okay. If we've got number 18, and I think that, well, that 18 is a corner forward, he's going to be coming in the corner forward position, I'll put that 18 here. Now, this is good because you can have this on the sideline with you during the match, and you can have your iPad on the sideline during the match, and you can see straight away what players are coming in what positions. So, for example, if number 14, if the full forward here got injured, well, it's just a quick swap between 18 and 14. Okay, you know exactly who your forwards are, and you know what positions they're coming in. So it's really good for what-if scenarios. So that's just a little tip there for you when you're coming to line out your team on match day. Just make sure your names are at the bottom. So strategically placing your subs around the edge. And what you can also do is you can also set your team up defensively. So I would send this out to the players in the WhatsApp group, but I would also send out maybe defensive setups that we've been working on and training during the week. So I might bring my 5 a little bit closer. I might bring my 7 down. I might have my 2 midfielders coming just to the 65-yard line. I might have my half back coming back, tracking back. I might tuck that 5 in a little bit. I might also have my half forward here coming back a little bit. And then obviously when we're not in possession, might have my 11 here as well. When we're not in possession, I might put up, okay, well then this is what our attack is like when we're out of possession. Okay. And you might write defensive setup on that. Okay, so you can really set your team out defensively, and you can do this before training as well when you're working on things. You can set your team out defensively, you can set it up attacking wise. You can also, if you've got some kickouts that you've been working on, for example, you might want to do a few kickouts. Now, there's one thing that's missing, and we're going to show that now in a second. We're going to show our tools. Okay. So if you click on tools, which is at the very bottom right-hand corner, you will see all the tools that you can use to manipulate the players on the field. Now, as I said, there is a ball missing. I'll show you where the ball is and where all of the other, and what all of the other tools can do. So when I click on tools, you will see at the very bottom here, there are different options for you. Okay, so you've got different things like a line, so you can draw a line, straight line, if you want to draw that. You can also draw a, now this is very useful if you want to draw an arc. Okay, so if you draw that straight line and then you just draw an arc, well, you can use that for things like defensive lines, and I use it for kind of saying to my defense, okay, this is your defensive area. I want you to be making sure you're pushing out on that kind of 65 there. And that's where we're setting up our first line of defense. So it's pretty good for you to use those lines. We've also got a squiggly line here as well that you can use. And it's basically freehand. So you can basically draw anything that you want on the pitch. We've also got shapes. So if I click the circle and the rectangle, I can circle things. So I might want to circle player. If I click on the square, I can use that as well. And these are just examples, obviously. I can also make the thickness of the square a little bit thicker. And I can also put shaded lines in on the square. So if you click that shaded line area, you can use the shaded line, which can be very important if you're doing maybe kick out strategies and you want your goalkeeper to hit a certain area. Well, you know, you can use those shaded areas. You can also use a discontinued line, okay, which is a little bit like that. So there are different shapes and functions that you can use. Okay, now if I wanted to get rid of all of that, what I would press is I would press this eraser here. Now this top eraser, in order to get rid of something, you have to click on each of them. But if you wanted to get rid of everything straight away, click on the bottom eraser and it says, are you sure you want to remove all the ink from the board? Yes. okay? Because I've just used it for demonstration purposes. So it allows you to get rid of the ink. Now, if you wanted to get rid of the players, you click on the players. Now you need to go back to menu. If you want to get rid of a player, just move them to the sideline, or sorry, the end line, and it gets rid of the players. Okay. So if you've got a player who shouldn't be there, you can move them to both sides of the field, and you can get rid of your players. Okay, so it's a very quick way and a little tip for you to get rid of your players. Now, if I go back to tools, I'm moving on to colors, because colors are there as well. You can have different colors. No need to explain that. The next one, and this is a very, very big one, are items. So if I click on items, it brings up a cascade of items. Okay, so we've got different types of balls. We've got black and white ball, blue and white ball. We've got a red and white ball. We've got cones. We've got these bigger poles that you see some Gaelic teams using. You've got your kind of traditional cones there, your red cones, your blue cones, your yellow cones. Excuse me. You've got circles. You've got some soccer equipment here. Now, a lot of the stuff revolves around kind of soccer equipment. There are no temporary Gaelic fields here. I have contacted Tactical Pad and asked them could they put in temporary Gaelic fields, and they've said they're working on it at the minute. But you can add your own equipment. But when you do add it, it doesn't really come out that well on the pitch. So you can add, they're like images. You can add images. But what I would like to draw your attention to is this C part. Now, the C stands for coaches. So you can have your coaches designated in certain parts of the field as well. Okay. Now, the thing that I was going to work on, or the thing that I was going to look at, were footballs. So if you wanted to drag these footballs onto the field, well, you would click and you would drag your football onto the field. Now, if you want to have loads of footballs, you can have loads of footballs. Just bearing in mind that there are no Neil's footballs on it yet. But if you do click on the football twice, on the left-hand side, the football will appear. Okay, a little drop-down menu will appear. Now, you can make the football bigger, depending on what size you want it to be. So if you're some of your players need the football to be bigger, that's fine. But I would generally have it around that size. Now, you can make copies of that football, and you've got this copy function here. So if I click on that copy function, that will copy the ball for me. Okay, so there's no need for me to go back into items and to keep dragging the balls out. All I have to do is click on it and copy. Okay, and I can copy as many as I like. Okay, so I've got my footballs there as well. Now, you can do exactly the same for cones. So if you wanted to put out these big cones, these traffic cones, again, you can do exactly the same. You can make them bigger. You can duplicate them. You've also got those traditional cones that we use. So if you want a blue cone, you would click on it. You would make it bigger. You can change the color of it. If you want a green cone, you could change it to green. Okay, so you get the idea with the items. Okay, the items are what you can use to put on the training pitch. Okay, so there are lots of different items. Now, at the very bottom, across from items, we have text. So I use text quite a lot, okay, because text will describe what's happening on the field. So I can write whatever I want on the field. Okay, and that will come up. So if I wanted to write something like defensive setup, I can write defensive setup. Okay. And I can also manipulate that to make it a little bit bigger. And I can drag it as well. So if I wanted to put it more centrally, I can put that more centrally. And I can change the background color on it too if I wanted to emphasize it. Okay. Now I'm just going to X that. Again, if I wanted to get rid of that, I would just drag it over to the side. And the cones again, if I want to get rid of the cones, I would drag them to the side. Okay. We've also got notes as well. So I don't really use this that much. You can put your own notes in, which might help you. and also effects. Don't really use the effects that much because they can get a little bit buggy, but you can connect the players to each other. Okay, so those are the things we've used so far. Now, what I'm going to go on to at the very, very end here, so we've got about 10 minutes, I'm going to show you how to create an animation, which can be useful for you if you're creating drills for some practices that you might have. Okay, so I'm going to create practice for you, and it's going to be a really, really simple practice. So if I click on my team, I'm going to go to team settings, and I want the players to be a little bit smaller. Okay, I also, when I click on team settings, I want to take the name away from underneath it because I don't really need it for practices. I don't really need the numbers either because usually in practices, we don't have the players using numbers. So I'll just take the number away as well, but I will make it big enough so that you can see it. Now, what I'm going to do here is I'm going to show you how to create an animation, and it's pretty much a straight line hand passing drill that I'm going to show you how to create. Okay, so I'm going to do it here on this sideline. So the byline here, I'm going to put my first cone on the end line, and I'm going to put my second cone roughly on the 21. But I'm also going to change the field perspective as well, because I'm only going to be using half the field. So if I click on field and I use this side of the field and click OK, now I've got a different perspective of the drill. Okay, so I'm going to set up my players here for this straight line drill. There's going to be 2 on either side. It's pretty much a straight line hand passing drill. And what I do is I need a few more cones, and I will have 2 lines going at the same time. So I'm going to duplicate a few of those cones. I'm going to have 2 players at each side of the drill. And all I'm doing now is just dragging those players into those positions. Now, I do think that the players are a little bit too big. So what I'll do is I'll go back to team and go back to team settings, and I'll make the players as small as I possibly can make them. So I just need to drag this last player here. Just take that goalkeeper away, and I'm just going to get rid of that last player. So we've got our straight line drill passing, and I want to write down what the drill is. So I'm going to put text at the very top, okay? And I'm going to write drill, and I'm just going to write straight line hand passing drill, okay? And I might put a few rules in. It might be no solo, and there might be a progression, and I might write in maybe to go faster or to use weak side. Okay, now just bear in mind this is just a basic drill that we might do in football, and that's the rule in. Now I make that a little bit bigger so people can see it. Now I do keep your instructions short and simple, as Barry was saying at the beginning, because it's easier for your players to understand. Now I've got that coach here, so I want to put a coach here. So I'm going to make that a little bit bigger. So I'm going to have 1 coach there on this side of the field, but I'm also going to have a coach on the other side. So if I click on items, I'm going to tell my other coach he can be this color, brown. Okay, so I've got my 2 coaches there. I make that a little bit bigger, and I might say to one of my coaches before the session, all right, you're going to be in this side of the drill watching these players, and I'll be on this side of the drill watching these players. Now I need to bring my balls in, my footballs in. I'm just going to make them a little bit, just going to drag them across and make them a little bit bigger just for the purposes of this exercise. And I'm going to make them all a little bit, make that one a little bit bigger. So if I press plus, it's very big, it's probably too big. And I'm also going to have balls around the players, because if this drill breaks down, there have to be balls placed around so that we can start the drill if it happens to break down for a reason. Okay, so I've set up my board now, and this is still a static board. Now, if I click on a player, so if I click on, let's say this player, the player's name will come up, okay, if you've put it in. What will also come up, and this is very, very useful, is the bib option. So let's say that you were going into maybe a 4v4 game after this. If you wanted to put a bib on him, you click on the bib. And let's say I want to put a red bib on him because I'm going to play Blues v Reds after this drill. You will see that his color now goes red because you put a bib on. So I'm going to put half them on red bibs because after this I'll be getting into a game and it'll be useful just to have the bibs on them now. Okay, so I'm just going to put all those players as bibs and these are red bib. Okay, so I've got my straight line hand passing drill set up on the static board. What I want to do now is I want to make this into an animation. So in the bottom left hand corner, you will see animation. So where my arrow is, I'm going to click animation and you will get this warning. It says this is a static board. Do you wish to convert it to an animation board? And I'm going to click yes. So now we have the potential for a video. Okay, and now we can use these frames here, which will cut the video up into different pieces. Okay, so when I click on this where the arrow is, I don't know what kind of, I think it's the frame icon. If I click on that once, I'm going to start my drill. Okay, so I'm going to move the ball out slightly and then an arrow will appear. Okay, but I'm going to have the player follow the ball as well. Okay, so you will see arrows appearing, but this red player is also going to come as well a little bit because he's going to come and collect the ball. Now, if I hit the frame again, then that means it moves on to the next frame. And you can see that here, it's 3 out of 3 frames. Now, this blue is obviously going to pass the ball to the red. So if I get my arrow and click it to the red, now the red's going to run onto it. And just have the red running on. And then that blue is going to obviously go behind that cone. Now, if I play it, you will just see the first 3 frames. Okay. Now, if you can also slow this down. Okay. So on the right-hand side here, you'll see speed functions. So if I want to slow it down to its minimum speed, which is 0.25, it will now go at its minimum speed. Okay, and you can see the blue player passing it to the red, and it's only 3 frames. Now, obviously, you would put in your next frame. So I'll click that they're going to pass it to this blue player, and then the red's going to join behind here. Now, this does take a little bit getting used to, but after a while, got this red player coming. After a while, it pretty much becomes a second nature. And once that blue plays it, then move on, and then I hit the frame again, and that blue is going to join in behind. Now this red's going to come off this line to receive that ball from the other red, and that red's going to go in there behind. Click the frame. So I've got 7 frames at the minute. So it's a straight line hand passing drill. It's at 0.25, so it's very, very slow. Again, it depends on the different age groups that you're coaching or that you're teaching. You know, you can show this to your players before training. Show it to your players before training. And you say, these are the drills that we're going to be doing in training. Be ready for them. Well, then it means that your explanation at the beginning of the training sessions it is important, but it doesn't need to be overly important because hopefully the players have seen it beforehand. Now, I can speed that up to twice the speed. And you'll see it flows more fluently now. The fastest I can go to is 4 times. So if I press play, it's now moving at 4 times the speed. Okay, and you can have 2 ends going at the same time. Okay, so that's a quick drill that you have. Okay, a quick, simple drill. Now, I think 5 minutes to do a little game scenario, okay, which is a little bit more complex, but hopefully I'll be able to do it. And it's basically about defenders working the ball out. Okay. So if I click on tools, I'm just going to move this top part. Okay. And I'm going to click on that again. I'm going to go to game. The game's going to be 4v4. And the objective of the game is going to be, let's say it's going to be overcoming a high press. Okay, let's say the rules for this game are going to be that the team in possession must get one pass in the shaded area. I'll show that in a second. Okay. And if opposition turns over, they attack main goal. Okay, so I'm just going to quickly set this up. Okay, so if I click on tools and just drag that up a little bit. But what I want to do is I want to show it from the whole field perspective. So I'm going to change the field because I need the whole field perspective. Now I need to twist this around, so you can rotate this so that it goes to the top. So there are the rules of my game. I'm going to put a coach on either side. Okay. Now just remember that that board is still moving. So we just set it up like this. I've got my goalkeepers here. So I'm going to put my goalkeeper in. The reds are going to be the defenders that have to work the ball out. And the blues are going to be stopping the defenders from working the ball out. So I'm just going to set up my blues here. Don't worry too much about the movements here. I'm going to set up my balls, my footballs where the goalkeeper is, because the goalkeeper is going to be kicking the balls out. Okay, I want to get rid of these cones. Let me get rid of those cones. And what they're going to do is they're going to work the ball out to the side of the field. So if I go to my shapes, and there's going to be one shape here. So they have to work it into this shaded area. And also they have to work it into that shaded area here. Now what I need to do is I need to move this because this is getting in the way of my team. So I'm just going to make that a little bit smaller. Now it does get a little bit iffy. Okay. When you're using this on the MacBook, it does get a little bit iffy. But I'm just going to delete that. Okay. So just for the purposes so that you can see where the shaded areas are. But when you're using the iPad, it's much easier to use this on the iPad than it is to actually use it on your MacBook, which I'm using it on at the minute. So it does get a little bit difficult. So I'm going to put the second shaded area here. Okay. That's the second shaded area. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to put an arc roughly around about here. But it needs to be an arc. So if you want to draw an arc, it's this one here. So I'm just going to draw a mini arc, and then I'm just going to make it like that. Okay. And then bring my footballs in here. Go back to animations. And now the goalkeeper has the ball. Okay, so now I've set up my game. So the goalkeeper has the ball. What the Reds have to do is they have to work the ball out to the shaded area here, and then they have to work it out to the second shaded area. So it's pretty much overcoming a high press. So you can put your rules in at the very top. So if I get the goalkeeper to kick the ball out to a red, okay, and then this second red is coming off, and then this blue moves towards this red, and let's say this red moved this way, and this blue came this way, this red this way, and then I go to the next frame. Let's say this red wanted to try and carry the ball up here, and this blue tried to move across, and then we've got a 2v1 situation now. Okay, and these other reds. So what you're trying to do is you're trying to make this kind of mimic what the game looks like. So this red's passing the ball into the square, and they passed it to the other red, and that's a score. Okay. And if we just play that from here, and I'll slow it down a little bit, you can see what it looks like. And then they've got a score. Okay. And you can explain that game as you're showing it to your team. Okay. So it's 52 minutes past. Now I was going to explore the 3D option. I'll just quickly show that to you. So if you click on 3D, it just shows you it from a 3D perspective. Okay. I haven't really looked at this massively, but what I'm going to do is you can make the players bigger. You can make them that height. There's your two coaches. There are your players. And then you can obviously play it through. Now it is soccer, so you don't see the players hand passing the ball. Okay. But what you can do is if you click on a player, you can see it from the player's perspective. So this little icon here, if I can click on that, just move that to the side. This eye here will show it from a certain player's perspective. Okay, so it can be quite useful for you to use this in game scenarios for defenders and whatnot. Okay, you can see what it looks like from the player's perspective. Again, it's something that I'm trying to explore. Okay, so that's it. So I'll stop sharing and I'll throw it back over to Barry for some questions.
Thanks, Joe. That was really good. Very informative. So the first question that came in there was from Liam. If you mess something up on one of the frames, how do you go back? Okay, so
good question. What you do is you're just going to have to delete it. So if I share my screen again, Barry, I'll just show him how to do that quickly because it's a very good question. It happens all the time. And I'll just come out of the 3D side of things. And I'll go back to animation. What you do is you just delete. Okay, so you see this bin here. This bin will delete. So let's say I wanted to delete that messy part. That was frame 7. So I can delete that frame 7 and I can just go to, or actually it was frame 6. I can delete that and that'll delete that part. Okay. Now, if you want to delete the last frame, you would bin the last frame. Okay. So it's this bin function, this rubbish bin function that helps you delete any mess ups that you've done. Hope that was okay. Darren or Barry or whoever it was.
Yeah, from Liam. This is from Darren. When showing the ball move in animation using the high pass, use the high pass as opposed to ground pass that you use.
Yeah, that's a good point, Darren. Yeah, and I'll show you that because just remember that when this was designed, it's designed for soccer, and when you make a pass, it's a soccer pass that is made, as you've seen from the 3D animation. So if you want to get a high pass, as Darren said, what you would do is when you move the ball. So let's say this red player is kicking the ball across to this red player. The two options come up. The ground pass comes up, and you know it's a ground pass because it goes straight across. It's close to the ground, or it's on the ground. But if you wanted to do a high pass, it's this one, and it shows you two lines there as well, and that signifies that it's a high pass.
You share the screen there, Joe.
Oh, sorry. Good point. So I'll just show you that again. Just going to bin that. So let's say this red player here wanted to pass the ball the whole way across to this red player. And I click on the ball. If you click on the ball pass, the ball flight. This ball flight here on the ground is a ground pass in soccer. This one here is a high pass. So yeah, Darren, if you want to, as Darren said, he's right. If you want to do the high pass, just click on the high pass. And then that will show you that it's a high pass. Now, if I go to the 3D, and if I go to play, let's just play it a little bit faster. You'll see that the last pass that's made in this here, in the game based. Okay, so they're moving, and then he's got the ball. So he kicked that across there. Let's just go back again. Slow it down a little bit to around half pace. If I go closer and I press play, so he gets over here, and then this pass, when he's in the box, he'll play a pass across, and you'll see that it's moving in the air. So it's more realistic towards Gaelic. Now, they haven't got there yet with some of the Gaelic, the moves in Gaelic, but they are kind of working on it at the minute, Barry, so it'll take time for them to do that. Thanks, Darren.
I can't wait to get the hurling one up and running, Joe.
That'll be some crack.
Yeah. Can you combine audio with the animation? That's from Lar.
Good question, Laura. The only way that you can combine it with audio is if you put it on some kind of media player. Sometimes what would you use for that? I would use Final Cut sometimes. But Barry, you do it, don't you? You explain it through, don't you? Verbally.
Just the audio, I've never used it with Tactical Pad as such. What you could do is you can, if you have, say, for your iPad, iMovie, what you can do is so if you go to share your animation, there's an option where you can save it to your gallery, and you can share the animation, save it to your gallery in your iPad. Then if you put that into your iMovie or InShot, it's a good app as well for making movies and videos. You can have a commentary on the game, and then you could upload that to anything you like. Yeah. But I don't know. I don't even know. Is there an option on Tactical Pad for?
There isn't. No, there's no option, Laura, on Tactical Pad to do an audio over it. I'm sure when they develop it, they'll have that in.
Another question from Liam there, Joe. Can you take pre-existing animations and add or adapt?
Yes, you can. What you do is now on the iPad, which I haven't got here on this, but on the iPad, there is a place on Tactical Pad on the iPad where you can store your pre-existing animations, and you can bring them back, and you can adapt them, and you can change them. And what you can also do is you can duplicate drills. So it doesn't mean that you're messing up a previous drill. You can duplicate a drill and make it a little bit different, and as you say, adapt it. So yes, you can do that, Liam. Yeah.
Any more questions, folks? Okay. That's 9 o'clock. Oh, here we go.
9
no.
o'clock, yeah.
Will we? Okay, I think we'll wrap it up. So, Joe.
Yeah, that's 100%.
9 o'clock. So just Joe, thanks again. That was really, really good. I learned a few things myself too, actually. That was all good. Just a reminder, our next webinar is with Niall Corcoran. Niall is a coach with Wexford Senior Hurlers. I worked with Niall for a long time when I was in Dublin. Top coach, and that's at 8 o'clock on the 19th of April. So have a good evening, everybody, and thanks for tuning in. Really appreciate it.
Cheers, Barry. Thanks.
Good stuff, Joe.
Cheers. Thanks, everyone. See you later, Barry.
Yeah, take care.